But I want to hear your journey and your thoughts on it.
Yep. Well, I would say that I, thought about prevention from the time I was a young child. When my uncle was 19, he was diagnosed with a stricture of the aorta. And so they recommended that he have open heart surgery. And in those days, it was 1958. That was the early days of open heart surgery. And so my grandfather was able to get him a really superb surgeon at Children's Hospital in Boston, where he underwent very successful surgery. And because it was the early days of open heart surgery, we all know not everybody survived. So he was one of the fortunate ones that did survive. But in those days, it took a year to recover. And so while I was a toddler learning to walk, he was learning to walk again, recovering from his open heart surgery. And every day we took him outdoors. And on a subconscious level, it got imprinted in me that prevention was, part of the DNA of every cell in my body. And so as I grew old, and at the time that he had the surgery, our whole family developed a healthy heart lifestyle, because that was something that, the doctors also taught you, is healthy heart lifestyle. And so I realized as I was growing up and then went into nursing that there were ways in which we could prevent diseases as well as treat them. And I think because going into the oncology field, it's a much more challenging disease to treat, because there's about 200 different types of cancer. Each one, there's multiple different types. So even like brain and nervous system tumors, there's about 120 different types of brain and nervous system tumors. And each one has their own treatment strategy. So it's much more complicated. And we haven't totally figured out how a cancer cell develops yet. We've learned a lot, but we're still trying to figure it out. So I think that heart disease is probably about 25 years ahead of oncology. But in the back of my mind, I've always had this idea that prevention should be an important part. Even if we don't understand everything, at this point, we know enough that we can be using some precautionary principles to help people to mitigate their risks. And we use 99% of our resources for treatment and 1% for prevention. And it turns out what you were saying about the number of people that cancer impacts is absolutely true. They know that by the end of next year, cancer will outsurpass heart disease as the leading cause of disease in the United States. And that is kind of a startling thing to realize, because all these years, heart disease has been number one. But it's because of the prevention and the treatment now, it's going to be number two, and cancer is going to be number one. So this is the perfect time to be working on prevention, because there are things that we can do.